to be working with a team of people who are literally trying to put something in place to say, right, well, here's how you can do this, here's how you can get support at this, here's what's available for you with this, is lovely, because a lot of the time we talk about the problems, and here we are talking about solutions. You know, they always say, be the change that you want to see.
As a community to talk to young people and find out how we can support them, because how can you respect a community that doesn't respect itself? So I thought we had to take action to help that young person to understand and see how we could support them.
There's two huge commodities for the Elysians: money and time. They're the two things, and you know, this organisation and people are doing it. What they've done is they've sacrificed time, some resources and finances, and that's the key really, because you know, people can talk a lot about certain things, but you know, again, you know, what needs to really happen is the sacrifice of time, investing time. And people appreciate it.
Hackney, for example, I chaired the Young Futures Commission, which was listening to the lived experiences of children and young people and using that to inform the creation of policy in Hackney Council. So when they're talking about young people being antisocial or they're gathering and it's intimidating in front of McDonald's, I just went and spoke to those young people, and they were like, we're here for the free Wi-Fi. We're not here causing trouble. So
messages have been listening to young people, and I know that's a really easy sentence, but I'm talking about really listening. I'm talking about putting your phone down, making the space and saying, you've got my absolute attention. And that is a really hard thing to do, so don't underestimate that.
Greetings and welcome to Walk This Way, hosted by myself and Lisa. My name is Eddie. We're going to be with you for the next, I don't know, 90 minutes or so, speaking to people, influential people, movers, shakers. We were here not so long ago, weren't we, Lisa? My beard has grown. The time that I work has changed. It's Black History Month. Today's World Poetry Day, and on Sunday will be World Mental Health Awareness Day. So there's a lot happening, a lot to unpack. The only thing that's same from last time is that you look magnificent, Lisa.
Thank you very much. If you saw me an hour ago, you would not be saying that.
Well, I had to wash and shampoo my beard so that we could get fixed up for tonight. But, you know, I'm auditioning for Father Christmas. But let me just tell you what we're doing here. I hope you're well, whatever you're doing. There's some tough things happening in the world. I'm hoping that through the show we can look at some of those. As I say, my name's Eddie, and this is Lisa, and we are here courtesy of Father to Father, looked after by Nexus and paid for by Enfield Council. But, you know, we're here to talk about being the change you want to see, as I said previously, to talk about some of the challenges that we're having, some of the ways to get through those challenges, to listen to people, to reason, and to encourage people to talk. It's a lot of people moan, but actually, in order to change some of the things that we've seen, we're probably going to have to be part of it. Don't you think, Lisa?
Absolutely. It's very important that whatever you can do, however big or small, you do something to assist in the community. Now,
Right. So,
especially
yeah.
now.
Yeah, and but that's what we're doing. That's what we're here for. Hopefully, we'll have some fun, some jokes, some laughs, and your contribution. Your contribution is always valued. It's always welcome. If there's somebody on here who's saying something you'd like clarification on, let me introduce you to a lady called Lois. Now, Lois is the heartbeat of Father to Father. She'll be looking at all of your messages. She'll be putting them up on the screen, and she'll allow you. Good evening to you, Lois.
Good evening, guys.
Hi, Khan.
And I mean, it's not a joke, is it? We really do want people to get involved, don't we? Are we encouraging them to write messages, ask questions, seek clarification?
Absolutely.
And
I'm waiting for your questions.
yeah. When is he going to shut up? That'd be the first one. Also, Laverne. Laverne is a child and educational psychologist. And I'm going to say last time, Laverne, I don't think we heard enough of you. So I'm hoping that we hear a lot more of you. Lots of us think we're doing the right thing. We want to do the right thing. But working with young people, all of whom are different, is not easy.
Definitely not. And I think, you know, coming together in this way and helping each other think about the way in which we're supporting young people individually and collectively is the real key message.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you. So we've got a number of people to hear from tonight, all of whom have practical experience in business, in life, in living, in being involved in the system, some of which are particularly interesting, as you will find out later on. And as I say, here, look, you know, the real world is we have a rising number of children excluded from school. We have a rising number of children with mental health challenges. The pandemic exposed an inequality that is there for all of us to see. Only yesterday we saw the universal credit £20 be removed. And we are in a place, I think we have to be honest with this, don't we, Lisa, where it's certainly as a place for women and girls, in the wake of the killing of Bieber and Nicole, Sarah Everard, and now one that's going through due process. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there really is. So it's some people have said to me it's a frightening time. So yeah, I look forward to today's discussions, especially hearing from Laverne.
Yeah. So, you know, I think information is a great weapon against that you perceive to be an injustice or difficulty as you go about your business, raising your children, going to work, involving yourself in the system or not, as the case may be. Just hopefully, the hope is through Father to Father, as I say, with the help of Nexus and sponsored by Enfield Council, we'll be able to help you with that today. Now we need to get going. Let's get the top man on, the head honcho. Courtney is the guy who thought this idea up, who thought, wow, this is a brilliant way to contact people, get in touch with people, reach out to people. You are to blame, Courtney. You are to blame. Just tell everybody a little bit about what this is and what you, as the guy who came up with the idea, hope that we get out of it.
First of all, thank you, Eddie and Lisa, for always supporting Father to Father and being continuously there for us and hosting this event. You're very much part of the family, not team, the family within Father to Father. Obviously, big up Enfield Council and Nexus, who are our partners, for seeing the vision as well. So what is Father to Father and what is Walk This Way? You touched on it a bit already, Eddie, in terms of, you know, what's going on in the world at the moment, mental health, domestic abuse, rising crime, all of these things are happening in our community. And it can be very, it is very pressurizing and it could be all very dark. But what I would want to say is that, you know, the people that we've spoken to on Walk This Way have been people that are in the community, but they're shining the light. They're showing people, they're becoming part of the solution. They're giving people hope. And that's what Walk This Way is all about, giving people hope, that yes, this is going on, but there is a way of getting out. There is a solution, and being part of the solution, sitting at those top tables, is part of making a change in our community. So that's what Walk This Way looks at. Lived experiences, but people who have been, who are visionaries, who are courageous, who are passionate, and I would say also bold to take a step of faith to be the solution in our community. So that's what Walk This Way is all about.
Yeah. And I think conversation around, I don't know that there is a right way. I'm always really, really conscious of telling people you need to do things like X or Y. But as an example of something, you may be able to take something good from that and make that part of your story. The one thing I think we all agree on is doing nothing at the moment is not really an option.
Totally agree, and you're right. Everybody, we're not saying we have all the answers. We're not saying this is the right way, but I think the key thing is let's have a discussion. Let's have that conversation and work together, and hopefully together we can find our way out. So yeah,
Right,
definitely.
Right. So just before you leave us, I need you to just tell us, because we do this a lot when we're broadcasting. We talk about words and things, and if you heard the Deputy Prime Minister misunderstanding the meaning of the word misogyny, I know, don't take it for granted that people understand anything. It's just better for me. Tell me just a little bit about Father to Father, who you are and what you do.
Just, you know, basically we're here to support the whole family. You know, we're almost like a family hub with a specialism around fathers, because a lot of times I've gone into areas and, you know, there's support for the children, there's support for the mothers, quite rightly, but there's no support for fathers. And when I say support for fathers, it's about that leadership as well. You know, so we do mentoring, we do coaching, we provide mediation, and, you know, we provide bespoke parenting programs. Again, not judging, but having that discussion to hopefully you know, create a better place for our children and our children's children. So that's what
you
we
think that's across the board, Courtney? Sorry for speaking over you.
What do you mean by that?
Do you think that lack of help, support, guidance for men, as in the father, is across the board, or do you think the perception is the black father isn't around anyway? So, you know, who are we helping?
I think it's just because, well, I think I personally believe that black fathers are there. I've seen a lot of black fathers there for their children, and I think one of the key things that I've done, you know, I remember going to a lot of community meetings and I hear, where are the fathers, where are the men, where are the fathers? And my thing was about highlighting the men, highlighting the fathers. That's why I did this thing called Honoring Inspiration Father Figure Awards. And I literally went around London and found these men fathers who are doing great things, yeah, and highlighting and saying, actually, we are here, support us to move forward. And, you know, and that's where it is. So I think it's about support for fathers, all fathers. But when I say, but then if we're going to be specific about certain things, black fathers, because there's a different journey for black fathers that we have to take into consideration. You know, I look at the journey of my dad coming over to Britain and experiencing racism and all kind of things. And then obviously the stop and search. So I know, as a black father, I have to speak to my sons about different things than our counterparts. So I do think fathers in general, but then there's this different type of discussion we need to have when it comes to black fathers.
I think so. I think black men.
Black men, yeah.
World Mental Health Day on Sunday, and on the BBC, I just done 4 hours, and we were talking about crying. And I struggle to explain that where I come from, which is different to where I broadcast, the idea of crying is seen as a weakness. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying in order for us to get to the stage where I think you want, which is to talk generally, we have to break down some of those ultra macho stereotypes
100%.
That we've all embraced at some time or another, you know. And
100%.
hopefully, look, if you think Courtney, not me, if you think Courtney's talking rubbish, right? Not me, because you know I don't talk rubbish. But if you think anything on here is something that I think that the one thing I've seen with the guests that we've got on today, and even myself and Lisa, you know, Laverne, Lois, all of us, if there's something that you'd like to challenge, ask,
That's right.
reason, or have explained, then please, I mean, otherwise it doesn't work, right? It needs to be
Right.
totally interactive. And that's
Please.
why we'll have those comments coming up on the screen.
Great. Okay. I
Thank
was
you
just going to
very
say,
much. Yes, sir.
Eddie, you
Yes.
just touched on crying, and I'm going to plug it. We've got a 12-week program called Men Chat 2, but the chat is an acronym for men need to see, connect, men need healing, men need to be acknowledged, and men need to talk. And I can tell you, when we come online and we chat, we've had men open up and cry online. But that crying is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. Yeah, and I just wanted to share that. So, you know, I cry. I'll tell you, I cry. But I know that's my vulnerability, and it's a sign of my strength, not my weakness.
Well, we'll talk
That's
about
beautiful.
that. I'm pretty sure people at home have views on that. But it's yeah, I think that, you know, that there is something in particularly us men, but women also, you know, black women supposed to be able to take more pain than anyone else, and they're 5 times more likely to die in childbirth. So I mean, look, there are all sorts of levels to this, but basically there is a challenge. It presents itself in many ways. We're articulating it through this program here. Walk
100.
this way, and we want you to get involved. So we're talking. We're just talking. This is a talking shop, a reasoning place. Courtney, thank you very much for coming up with the idea. Thank you very much. We'll hear from you again later on.
Thanks,
I'm
Courtney.
pretty sure.
Take care.
Lisa, I step back now. It's all about you, isn't it?
Well, Eddie, you know, I'm having a great time. It's been a bit of a rush today. I think when people see us presenting, sometimes they may think that, you know, we just fell out of bed like this, but rushed home from work, jumped in the shower, panicked, couldn't find my makeup, and now I'm sitting here calm, co-hosting with you. Really looking forward to today's show. And because unfortunately it happens every 3 months, there is a big gap and a lot has happened since our last broadcast. The guests tonight are amazing. So although I get the privilege of interviewing them, I also learn from these individuals. And every time we have a new show, I think to myself, who's going to be coming up now? You know, what's their background? What's their level of expertise? So now I have the pleasure of introducing Sonia McGee, and we're going to talk about her journey. She is the founder of Inspirational You, which is a London-based social enterprise, which she launched in March 2010. Her mission was to connect, inspire, and empower young people, women, and ethnic minorities who want to make professional changes in their lives. She used to be a management consultant. She's a single parent. She's a mentor, a football coach, and she's driven to make a difference, to see those around her reach their full potential. So I hope that you enjoy talking to Sonia as much as I do, because she is our next guest. Good evening, Miss McGee. How are you, my love?
Oh, good evening. I'm really well. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm looking forward to speaking to you. I think one of my struggles with you is you've done so much that I struggled to cut down your bio, because your bio was literally pages. And I was like, you know what? If I'm asked to talk about myself, not because there isn't a lot to say, but I don't know how to word it, but you've done so much amazing things. Could you just tell me about what inspired you to create Inspirational You, and what were the obstacles you faced?
Well, as you mentioned, I started Inspirational You in 2010, so it's quite incredible now. You look back and it's like, wow, that was like 11 years ago, but I remember it like yesterday. And the basis of starting it initially was because there was a tech crisis. And at that time, there was lots of individuals who I knew who were losing their jobs, or were thinking about what they wanted to do next. And as a result of that, they were just thinking, I'm redundant. And there's something about the word redundant, what it can do to some individuals. I see it as an opportunity. I see it as your path to think about the things that you want to do. But for others, it makes them think that there isn't anything for them to do. So off the back of that, I literally wanted those who were going through periods of change to remember that there is inspiration in them. And that's where the name Inspirational You comes from, because we all have a story, and we all have an incredible story to share. And sometimes we just need a little bit of guidance and support to enable us to be able to fulfill that's the potential that we have. So when I started it, the idea was I wanted to inspire women. I wanted to inspire young people, but also wanted to inspire us. I wanted to inspire Black people. I wanted us to see who we are. I wanted to connect us. I wanted us to step forward and walk in the power that we have. But we can't do that on our own. It takes a village, and that's very much my mantra. So you spoke about me being a single parent, for example. Whilst I'm a single parent, her dad is very, very proactive in her life, but to do the things that I do and have done, I've needed support around me. But equally, for us to achieve the things that we want in business or in our community, we need a team. And the purpose of Inspirational You was to be able to bring as many of us together as we could in the different events that we have done, to enable you to be able to learn from one another, to connect with one another, and more importantly, look at how we can build together as well. So it's been a very eventful 11 years. And you asked about kind of hurdles.
Yeah,
I think,
I'm just interested because I think people hear about the successes, but sometimes the challenges, and 11 years is a long time. So, please do talk about the great things, but to encourage people that want to step out and do something, I don't want an obstacle to stop them.
Well, ultimately, the only obstacle that stops you is you.
Right.
And sometimes we just have to remember that the buck starts and stops with us, and we can do so much with very little as well. And my mantra in life is don't ask, don't get. And I've met some incredible people along the way, and I can see a few just speaking in the
Bigging
chat
you
right
up,
now,
yeah.
and they are all incredible individuals. And that's the thing: unless you put yourself out there to connect with others, you're never going to know who's right on your doorstep. And that's been the blessing of the last 11 years, just meeting so many incredible visionaries who are just walking the same journey as me and sharing the same vision as me, which is about us. And that's what Inspirational You is. It's about us. How do we keep shining our light? How do we keep on learning? How do we keep on growing? How do we keep on empowering one another? But more importantly, how do we think about our legacy, and how do we think about how we use that legacy to make a difference to the future generations that are coming behind us? And in terms of what's been difficult, I guess there are times when and that's for anybody that runs a business, you can feel pretty exhausted. It's long days.
Yes.
And for those who also work alongside running their business, you may have your 9 to 5, and then you've probably heard the saying on many occasions, you have your 5 to 9, but usually it's kind of 5 till 2 in the morning.
Right.
And that can be difficult, but then when you see the end result, that keeps you going. The other thing also, and it's quite interesting because I had a conversation most recently with Shari Lee, who's just produced a report which is looking at Black businesses, and the other issue we have is funding, and how we keep ourselves resourced. And having access to that funding, and understanding and navigating the venture capital space. So we also need to have conversations about finance, and look at how we can ensure that, however and wherever we get access, that we just allow others to be able to learn and also have access to that finance too. And one of the things
that's really, really good. Sorry to cut you, but that's
Yeah.
a really important point, because you're talking about bringing people along the journey, a mentorship in effect. And, just touch on that for me, if you don't mind.
Well, my other attitude is that there is enough for all of us.
Isn't there just?
And what's good for me is good for me, and what's good for you is good for you. And that's because it is for you. And that's that. I walk in my shoes and you walk in yours, but that doesn't mean because I walk in my shoes, I need to trample on yours. And that's not my attitude at all. And so it's always about having that we mindset.
Yeah.
So going back to finance and what's been difficult, and particularly over the last 18 months, what we've seen with a lot of organizations is that, and in the third sector, that is that they've struggled to keep going. But we have to then look at how we pool resources. We have to look at how we share what resources we get. And one of the things I have always done is just shared, like, people are like, they probably mute me most of the time, but if you share it with me, I will share it with other people, because there's only so much that we can eat.
You're
So
right.
why are you going to overconsume? You know, greed will get you absolutely nowhere. But knowing that we are all sharing and benefiting from the plate will only benefit multiple people. So that's my mantra. Like, it's always a we, it's always an us.
That's
And
beautiful. So could I ask you, how does someone get involved?
it's easy. I think I'm fairly accessible. So I use social media. And that's how I've reached out to most of the people that I've connected with. And that's how I've been connected to others as well. And, you know, I always tell everybody that I just like the person next to me, whether they're in a public domain or not. We are just human beings. So just ask. So one is just, you know, reaching out via social media, looking at the things that I'm doing as well. So one of the areas that I'm deeply, deeply passionate about is young people. And every year I do a series in Parliament, and it's called Letter to My Teenage Self. And I'm always looking for inspirational individuals to come along and speak to those teenage girls. And the reason why I specifically focus on teenage girls is because I have a teenage daughter. And it's just so important that, particularly those who are thinking about entering the workplace, they know what is possible, because the reality continues to be that women are not represented at a senior level in many organizations, and in particular women that look like you and I are even less represented at senior levels.
Yes,
So I
that's
want
true.
them to meet women who are in senior roles. I do the same thing for teenage boys as well. So I want them to meet individuals who may not look or sound like them, but are passionate about making sure that they open doors for them to know that they too will be sitting in that seat in years to come.
And I think my final question, out of all of the hundreds of young people that you have most probably influenced and come into contact with, is there one person in particular that stands out to you or has simultaneously inspired you? Is there one experience that you fondly remember?
There was one. There's a few, to be, yeah, when I think about it, and I was listing a few of them. But the one that touched me the most and really hit me at my core was an event that we did, and it was at Birkbeck University. And one of the speakers, who I had been trying to get for a very long time, eventually said yes. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, I just want to tell you thank you, because she herself has had a very emotional journey. She had been diagnosed with cancer a few years before, and she shared her journey. So she said talking was her therapy. But somebody came up to her and said to her, thank you, because she also was diagnosed with a life-threatening condition. And she said, you've just given me the will to live and the power to know that I can still do what I want to do. And that just, you know, made me shed a tear, because you know, I never know who's going to come to the things that I do, but that's what it's about. It's just knowing that you can keep going, and you just never know the impact that you have on somebody else's life.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? You're impacting us all. And I think the letter to my teenage self, I have seen this advertised in the newspaper where famous people literally write a letter to themselves when they were a child, thinking, what would I tell myself if I had an opportunity to go back? So, you know, that in particular has really touched me.
It's so therapeutic. And the reason why I also host that event is because sometimes, particularly as we get older, we lose direction and lose focus, and we forget about the things that made us uniquely us. And when you write that letter, you then remember all the things that you wanted to do. You then remember the hurdles that you perhaps put in your way. And it's just a reminder to just get women and the men who participate, because, you know, as I said, I do both, to think about what is true to them, and perhaps then going back to that as well, because when you go back to that, you are really living your own fulfilled life.
Well, Sonia, thank you. Don't go anywhere. I know that we've had questions and posts coming up. I just wanted to bring in Lois. She may be able to just share with us what the community is saying. Lois?
Absolutely. Sonia, it was lovely. You were dropping so many gems. I'm literally writing down all the amazing things that you've been saying. I love your point about about not there's more in this world for everybody.
Right.
But you've got some great questions coming through. There is one from a Donald, and he's asked, what has been one of the surprising thing that you have seen at Inspirational You that didn't exist when you started?
Interestingly now, and I think particularly with lockdown, we've seen that there's much more platforms and spaces for us to be able to learn using an online environment. So that's fantastic because, again, my mantra is never stop learning. But what didn't exist that exists now, I think it's seeing more people going into business and just knowing that they can do it, and that the resilience that we need to just keep on going really continues to exist. There's nothing better than just celebrating and seeing somebody else just walking in their power, and if in their power is, work running the business that they want to run, or when I get messages from individuals that have been promoted or they've changed roles, that is what it's all about. It's change, and it's just continuously coming outside of your comfort zone, and that's all I'm trying to encourage us all to do. So again, going back to Inspirational You, it's just reminding you of who you are.
Okay, I think we may have lost. Oh, Lois, you're still there, my love?
I'm absolutely here. Thank you, Sonia. And there was one more question for you as well. I think everybody is doing what I am doing and writing down all the notes feverishly. So there was the next question is, what has been the most surprising progress for you at Inspirational You?
Surprising progress. Sometimes it's the yeses that I get. So sometimes I reach out to individuals, and as I said, don't ask, don't get. And when I get the yeses of support, it sometimes surprises me because I think, okay, how comes? But we are doing this because there's a greater power than us, and I truly believe that I'm here to serve as well. And so the surprise is sometimes the brands that reach out and say they'd like to collaborate. And I'm just like, wow, the gifts and opportunities that are presented to me sometimes surprise me as well, because I don't take anything for granted and I don't do anything for kudos. But, it's just, no, the biggest surprise isn't the hardship. The biggest surprise is the continuous messages and reminders of the impact that we have had, and it's definitely a we, because as I've said, it isn't just me. I have some incredible individuals that have been supporting me and working alongside me, and those that I featured and those that continue to support what I do. It's about all of us. So it's, the surprise is that I hear the story, and that's why I've set Inspirational You up. But when you hear the impact of what others are doing, it still hits you differently every single time.
Well, Sonia, just to check, what is the age group of young people that you actually work with? If we've got a mum or dad out there and they're thinking, you know what, I'd love to plug my child into this, are there any kind of groups that you can't work with for any particular reason?
It's for the letter to my teen self. That's sort of like the secondary school age. So it's those who are aged between 14 and 16.
Right.
When we do specific programs for young people, so in the future, just trying to get a venue confirmed, because the venue that we was due to go into unfortunately fell through, but everything for a reason. And we're also going to start a Saturday program. So that's going to be for those who are aged between 16 and 21.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sonia. Lois, thank you, my lovely. Sonia, I'm sure that more people will be getting in touch with you based upon this. Founder and CEO of Inspirational You. I can see your details at the bottom. So if anyone's interested, please do get in touch. Thank you, Sonia, and
It's
keep
a pleasure.
up the great work.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, my love. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a very short but also inspirational video regarding Father to Father.
Welcome back. This is Walk This Way. And just in case you're interested, yeah, I thought that little boy was waving his hands too much at his father as well. If my child feels like he wants to do that, then I may well need this next guest I'm going to bring on. My name's Eddie, and that was Lisa. This is an opportunity for us to get to talk to people, walk this way, presented by Father to Father, supported by Nexus and Enfield Council. Thank you very much for your sponsorship. You had a little preview of her there. She's almost as grey as I am. She's been around a while. She's an MBE. She's an advocate of people getting involved. I've met her at New Scotland Yard when I went to something that her organisation was hosting alongside Mr. Neville Lawrence. And I've also had her on one of my radio shows talking about people of colour specifically getting involved in the criminal justice system. And no, not the way you think. Dr. Angela Herbert, MBE, welcome to Walk This Way.
Hello, thank you very much, Eddie. And good to see that you are greater than me.
Yeah, I did tell you, didn't I? I gave you a call. I was doing my, I was told World Mental Health Day coming up. Go and chill out. So I took a little chill out in the park and I phoned you up. It's got quite interesting, actually. And I know we should start and do it chronologically. But you are an advocate for people getting involved in things, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I do that, obviously, I do it myself. And so I encourage other people to do that as well. I've been doing it since I was 24 years old, and I'm just shy of your age, 70.
So tell us, because there were quite a few strings to the bow, but essentially, I think, in terms of when we spoke last, it was, look, you know, as people of color, a lot of the time we stand out outside of systems. Now, be it that vaccinations, be it I don't know, becoming police officers, becoming people involved, councillors, politicians, and you were advocating for people to get involved. But you have so many hats. I'm wondering which one you would like to start with.
Well, I think that in relation to this platform and this opportunity really is to encourage people from the community to get involved in issues that affect us. Because if we're not at the table, we don't have a say. If we don't have a say, we can't sit and complain when things don't work in our favor. Or if we're not at the table, we can't challenge or change. And so I advocate for anyone just to get involved in everything as I do.
Okay, so I mean, look, I could talk to you about people being at the table and not advocating for anything.
Yeah,
When Margaret Thatcher became prime minister as a woman, I imagine lots of women expected that to be an opportunity for other women to get through. It didn't work like that. There are lots of organisations and lots of places where we can see people of colour getting somewhere and not bringing people through. So let's break it down then, and give us a specific in terms of, I don't know, criminal justice, in terms of the justice system. How might somebody watching this today get involved?
Okay, so there are a range of ways. One of the things that I do is I volunteer. And there are reasons that I volunteer. Is because if you pay me, then potentially I'll have to comply with whatever it is you want. And I may feel restricted in terms of my view or opinions. There are police independent advisory groups, and I chair the group in Brent, and they were established as a result of Macpherson, one of his recommendations. In fact, the first one, which was about improving relationships between police and communities, and I've taken that quite literally. And so if there is going to be a change in terms of those relationships, and there are historic issues, then I need to be part of that. I need to add my voice, and I need to add my views as well. Not only my views, but those who may not have a voice or not feel they have one. And so that's exactly what I do. I'm not paid for it. I earn, but this is a part of me that I've been doing since I was 24 years of age within the criminal justice system, prisons, and now really with police. It's very little difference, very little difference.
What would you say to somebody listening to you who has a child in Enfield or anywhere else that's constantly being stopped and searched? What would you say to anybody who's listening to you who would be able to tell you about Bieber and Nicole and how they died the 6th of June, and how the police didn't go looking for them and they were found by members of their family, and then 2 officers took pictures and put it on WhatsApp? Would you accept it is, I admire you, I have done for years, would you accept today is a difficult day to come to this subject?
I think that is exactly this day that we ought to come to this subject, because if it appears that things are getting worse, then we need to be at the table, and that's what I do. In relation to the case that you make reference to, as a member of the independent advisory group, I was actually invited to sit on the gold group. So there's information that you hear, and you can actually put across a community voice, an opinion, a fear, an aspiration, an inspiration, whatever it is. And that's where you can actually have a say. It influences policy and hopefully practice. And that's my hope. Look, I expect little, and I am then surprised. But the heart of it is I'm a mum. I'm a mum of many, and I'm a grandma of many now. And we can't keep having the same narrative. And I could get discouraged and say, well, because I seem to say the same thing over and over again in terms of who's representative in groups. But if I stop, who's going to do it? And so for me, I encourage as many people to get involved as possible, because that's the only way you can change policy in practice.
What do you get out of it, Angela?
What I get out of it is over the last couple of years, I kind of operate behind the scenes. There are a couple of initiatives that have commenced, and they've been because of my voice or others. I've been able to bring those to the table. And we look, I may not, my name may not be on it. I don't care. It's about really making a change. And as I say, I have a grandson now. Must my grandson go through the same things that my son has and my brothers did? My dad, maybe not so much, but you know, why should this continue? And the only way that it can stop is if we make a change. And it's not about me being big, my name, because I'm big anyway, but it's about using my mouth and saying that policy and practice must change. And that's what I do. I get frustrated, but I keep going.
Yeah, I guess sometimes people like me characterize it as a black thing, and I don't think it is. 'Cause actually, I don't think they like to play the police in Dominica, Nigeria, or Jamaica either. It speaks to an issue of power, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if you want to speak truth to power, it's quite a difficult and challenging job. In terms of practical, real terms, without giving me details of individual cases, can you give an example? Because I think you have to let people know what you can be, how you can change, how you can affect, which is why you should get involved.
Okay, so we assume that like the police, you know, there's an expectation that we have of police. And there is a group of us that have gone in. So the new recruits, we've gone in and we have conversations. And, you know, people in any field, in public sector, start out with the best intentions. But then when you've got people that have been around for a long time and the systems there, it's very difficult to fight or change that. So an example is that we go into Hendon, and we have conversations with new recruits and we talk to them about what it is really like for communities. How does it feel when an individual has walked so many yards and has been stopped many times? How does that feel? And actually having those conversations and understandings need to happen higher up the chain in terms of policing. But there, for me, I think that for many, it's a job and it's a career. And it should be a career of choice. So I would encourage Black people, Black men in particular, to join and have such a career. But if all you're doing is looking after your mortgage, etc., then maybe the empathy is not there. It's about also understanding there are people in the community that have neuro diverse needs and understanding the needs of people with mental health, for example, trauma. There are so many things, but if we're not at the table to actually have a conversation to say this is what it feels like and what can you do differently. So for example, I'm here today, but my question is, so I have a conversation, but so what? If nothing comes of it, then I'm not at the table. Do you understand? It's about really making change. It is about solutions, and we have to, if we have areas that we're concerned about, if we have a solution or something we can contribute, then that's what we should do. And that's what I do. That's what I do.
I think the world is made a better place because of you. As obviously, you know, I'm here now with Lisa on Walk This Way, but I've debated with you before. But I also have to tell you that I went to an exhibition hosted by somebody called Stafford Scott, who's a community activist not far from Menfield in Tottenham. And it was one of the most wonderful, uplifting, but depressing things I'd seen. This year, the 10th year of the Tottenham riots, the 40th year of the uprisings over in Brixton and also in New Cross. And you do look at what's happening today, and I need you to end it upbeat. And obviously we could talk for a long time. I appreciate you. We love what you do and we want to get involved because I agree with you fundamentally on any level, whether it be as a counselor, whether it be as a mentor. We do have to help each other. We're in that place. But just give some guidance, words of encouragement to the young people who might be frustrated at being stopped, or the mum who wants to turn her son or daughter away from it and encourage them. Just give some words of encouragement for us, please.
Okay, so police is seen as a dirty word, right? But there are police volunteers, so the cadets, there are different ways that young people can get involved. There are different ways that adults can get involved so that they can also work alongside young people and cadets. I feel that the best way to actually deal with something is to be in it. There are new groups that have been set up called police encounter panels. And I've sent over the email addresses for the different boroughs. And so people that are really interested can actually make contact with the commander in that area and get involved. That means that you can look at the body worn cameras, and you can actually have a say, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. But more than anything, there are so many different ways that people can get involved. And so including opportunities to not only look at body worn cameras, but to walk around and see what the police are doing. Volunteer, contact me. Look at Stride, the action plan, inclusion, diversity and engagement document that the Met published on the 27th of the 9th. And it's about holding to account. If you said this, when are you doing it? How are you doing it? I will help you to do it because it will make a difference to me, the community and my young people.
There are lessons learned. This must never be allowed to happen again. There are so many of those sound bites. I hope you're right. I hope we've moved past this. As I said, I think you're doing a brilliant job, and there are lots of people looking at this who may well have interesting thoughts. I'd love to invite Lois on to talk to us. Lois.
Hi, Eddie. Hi, Dr. Angela.
Hi, Lois.
I mean, it's a perfect time to have the doctor on, isn't it? Because I think fundamentally trust between all communities and the police has been shaken over the last few days. But there are a lot of people of color in particular who are going, we've been telling you for years. So what are people saying? How are people asking questions?
Oh, there's so many questions. The chat box has been ablaze since you came on, Dr. Angela. Many of the questions, there's one from Mervyn and a similar one from Winston as well, asking what VCP is and how do people get involved. I think you kind of explained that, but do you want to just touch on that a bit more?
Okay, so the Violent Crime Prevention Board was launched in 2018, and it's just a group of volunteers like myself. And what we're doing is looking at, it's not violent crime prevention, it's really a vision to champion progress. Anything around violence, knives, I'm about how can we take away the knife and give something else. An initiative that we just launched, in fact, last week is called VCP Ventures. And so I'm working alongside someone called Jeremy Chapman, big business, big people who have access to resource, etc. And the idea is to encourage young people, anyone with an idea, not just young people, but older people who may have been affected by COVID, for example, to go to vcpb.org. And the information is on there. We can be reached, we can be contacted. Courtney is also lead on families. So we're not a business as such, but we have access to police at quite senior level across the board. And it's about having those really positive relationships to enable the communities and ourselves.
Excellent.
Just before Lois asks another one, in terms of being a volunteer, in terms of getting involved on the other side of things, what type of commitment were we talking about? Lots of people want to know about how many hours it takes.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you ask me, I'm the worst person because I'm trying to stop responding because I'm very reactive. And you know, like yourself, at 70 years old, when someone calls you, you just respond real quick because you don't know if tomorrow's going to come. So it's really, if you volunteer, and as I've been doing it since I was 24, it's as much as you have. And the have is often based in here and here. And whether you feel that you can make a difference. But if you've got a specialism, for example, then you can contribute maybe an hour to a month. It really depends on the individual. How long is a piece of string?
Sorry, Lois.
No, absolutely, that's fine. It's only because you just touched on the VCP Ventures, and I know it's a business mentoring that you've launching, and there's applications. You're accepting applications. Can you just talk a little bit about how people can apply for that business mentoring?
Yeah, so go on to vcpb.org, go to the website, but there is an email which is vcpventuresprogram@gmail.com, and it's not a formal application where you've got to write so many words, etc. If someone has a learning difficulty, for example, they can record it, they can send in, I know, photographs or whatever, but they have to have their business name. What is their aspiration, and what help might we be able to give? Jeremy Chapman has got a range of really big players that are contributing to this space. We are going to shortlist 50 businesses. Everyone comes away with something. 50 businesses initially, and we'll whittle down to 5 businesses which will be supported. We're going to mentor individuals. We're going to run workshops. So it's not you win or you lose. You're going to get something. And this is the part around, if you want to take something away, something that's negative away, you've got to put something positive in its place. And this is one such of the many things that we do. But vcpb.org and the website, the email address, send it in. However, just key things: name, the business name, what difference is that business going to make, and what help might you need.
Excellent, thank you. Eddie, do we have time for another question?
Of course you do. Absolutely.
Lovely. Great. Well, I'm going to choose this one from Donald. He's asking, how far does the work stretch across the country?
Okay, so since the Violent Crime Prevention Board started, and I also use the Brent IAG, which I chair, I use them both. So I've got this national picture, and then I also feed it in locally. And so I've been to Leicester, I've been to Manchester, I've been to different parts of the country. And now with COVID, if anyone has a question, or there's anything that they need, we just they can contact us. It's not limited to London, to one space. It's wherever and across the country. And it's not just Black people, but whoever has need, we support. Working with Crime Stoppers, you know, and other initiatives, because some people, you know, our community, we're not victims, you know, and the number of people that are actually having negative encounters are quite minimal. And so we need to also help ourselves, and that'll probably get the questions coming in when I say that sometimes we're our own worst enemy, and we sit down and wait. What we do have, what do you mean? Well, you know, things are being done to us, you know, and we're sitting there like sitting ducks. No, we you know, we have and we can. And
I don't know, but doesn't it matter who's doing what to us? Give me an example.
You can say we can't get jobs. There are no jobs for us. There isn't anything that we can do. And so we might sit and just say, well, you know, we can't. Or the police, you know, the police, Babylon and all of that. Why don't we get in and have a conversation with Babylon and change the way they behave, and not let them do things to us, but we can. We can stand up and we can have those conversations.
Before you became this superwoman that you are, did you have any encounter with the police?
I had one encounter, but my background, this, you know, you might want to get your tissue out. At age 24, I became a born again Christian, and I started working in volunteering in prisons, and that kind of was the thing that got me going, because there is a whole chain. It's not just prison.
I understand that. Believe me, in this particular setup, we understand 2/3 of the people in prisons can't read or write. 75% of people in prisons don't have a positive role model. We have huge numbers of people with mental health challenges. Many of them come from PRUs. Those numbers I know. Those numbers we know. I'm just fascinated because many of the people watching and listening and engaging, their impression of the police will be born out of their own personal experience. So I'll ask you again, did you have any experience with, listen, I interview Commissioner Cressida Dick. I sit there and argue with her. Last May, after Bianca Williams got, you know, her boyfriend got dragged out of the car, and then they expected Bianca to give the baby. I was like, are you people crazy? So believe me, but my personal experience, is a negative one. Is the boy coming out of
Yeah.
Hackney, and even so, I decided to live my life where I had nothing to do with police, good or
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
That's me. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to work and I'm trying to change. But that's my
Yeah.
first. So I ask you respectfully,
Yeah.
because I think for a lot of people watching, it has governed. What have you had before you do
I
the brilliant
have.
work that you're doing now?
So how have I had that as a woman? I've been stopped once, and I think the person has never forgotten it, because I made sure I went all over with that. It was a stupid, but everyone that is stopped, everyone that has gone through that process is who I advocate for. And so, yes, everyone that's been stopped, everyone that's had a negative experience is why I'm here, is why I have voice. I have voice, and that's what I use for them, for us, for me. Yeah.
Understand. Give contact details again, please, Doctor.
For the ventures.
For you, if people want to ask, because I imagine that lots of people watching have got more questions.
Yeah, I want people to contact me.
Well, let's go then.
I want people to contact me. So you can reach me on oh my gosh, my email's there. BrentIAGgroup@gmail.com. BrentIAGgroup@gmail.com, or office@vcpb.org. But I want to hear from people. I want to hear the negatives. I want to hear it, because the negative ones are the ones that I'm working with, and they're making huge, huge changes. You may not see them or hear them. They're being undercover, but they're doing great things. And I want them. The vilest offender come. They're the ones I want. Challenge me. Let's make change.
Let's go. Listen, Lois, thanks for your questions. We'll get some more. I imagine Laverne is going to be very busy in a very short while. Doctor, reasoning with you is always fantastic. Look, you nearly made me. I wasn't going to drink this on there, but you made me draw for the. You made me draw for the brandy. It's a time. It's a time. But we are eternally grateful for people like you. Thank you for the work that you do. Appreciate it very much. If you've just tuned in, watching us either on YouTube or Facebook, this is Father to Father, hosting a community show, really, if I'm honest with you. It's about us reasoning, and we are doing that today. It's getting people who are doing things in the community to encourage other people to do things, because either you're watching the ride or you're part of the ride, and there are so many challenges. And I think, as our guests have said, Sonia and Dr. Angela Herbert, that, you kind of got to be in it. You kind of got to give yourself a chance. You can lose your job and kind of sit down there, or you can see necessity as a mother of invention and try to come up with your own thing. You got to do it. My co-host today, the person who's telling me what to do behind the scenes, I see here, is Lisa. Lisa, hello.
Hi, Eddie. You're doing great.
Lisa Marie Carr. That's your name. Somebody who does what I want to do. Might I take a few minutes to talk to you? Because you're on here, and I think, my sheet is there for everybody to see, and everybody's fed up of hearing about me. But I think very little is known about you. You do what I dream of doing if I could. I admire you. You have the job that nobody recognizes until something goes wrong. As a community worker, as somebody who is a social worker, you've also done a degree, and it's the degree that I'd like to do. Except when I went to look at it, it cost £7,200 a year, and I thought, I have children, I don't have that kind of money. But I would like to. I feel less than because I don't have a degree, and yours is in criminology, and you've used that. I'd like to know a little more about you, so as we do these programs, people understand your drive to being a magistrate.
Right. Well, thank you, Eddie. I'll be really quick and short. I was inspired to become a magistrate through my passion and compassion for ex-offenders. Whilst a lot of people in society, and I certainly am not condoning crime, but I have had an opportunity growing up in Haringey, Northeast London, to grow alongside a lot of individuals that took different courses in life than me. As Dr. Angela Herbert said, she's a Christian, so am I, and I became a Christian at 21. And my faith inspired the direction that I took. So I became quite academic, slightly late. Before then, I had a lot of friends who were offenders and also some family members. So my experience was very much one of seeing things up close and personal. And because of that, I always had an opportunity to understand the story behind some people's actions, especially young people in gangs. My desire to understand things a bit more meant that I did a master's in criminology, and that was after my social work degree, because I wanted to test the nature versus nurture question.
Yeah.
Are people born with a criminologic gene?
Born bad, yes.
As some like to say. And I disagreed with that. I think people are born innocent and pure, and it's about your experiences and those that you influence you, your environment. I was able to become a magistrate only 2 years ago after inquiring 15 years ago, and Operation Black Vote inspired me at the time. So big shout out to Lord Simon Woolley,
Lord Simon Woolley, yes,
and the amazing team there, because I honestly was scared. I didn't want to answer the big question that a lot of people of color may think they know someone or are related to someone who is an offender. And the question that is asked is, are you related to anyone who has committed any kind of criminal offense? And I just did not want to expose my personal life. I felt like that was private. And whilst it wasn't my story, it was a story of people I loved. And I just decided, if I tell them that I'm related to people who have gone to prison, I won't get this opportunity. So for 15 years, I sat and did nothing about this desire that I had until recently.
Okay, so before you carry on, and I know you're always keen, as most people are, to get to the destination. Perversely, I like the journey. What did you do in those 15 years? And as you look back on those 15 years now, if we go back to Sonia Meggie, you had to write a note to yourself. What would it be?
Do you know what? I was always doing something where I was helping ex-offenders in a voluntary capacity. So people in my church, in my community. I've even had people bring people to me and say, hey, you know, you're a social worker.
Save that one there.
Give them some advice, especially where there's issues with men being unable to see their children, custody issues. I've been able to direct them to father. So that's why all these community organizations are so helpful, because I might not have the answer, but because I'm connected to great people like Courtney, Mervyn, we all know someone that's doing something, that got out of bed and decided to make a difference. So during those 15 years, I was doing my little bit. And sometimes you don't need to do something that involves a title. Just doing something in the community, being kind.
Yeah, but you're doing the host bit. I don't want you as the host. Right? Yeah, I know what you're doing. Don't do that. I'm asking you now. You are caring, loving. I mean, I know you enough in terms of what I've seen and my experience of you to know the kind of human being that you are. Nobody doubts that. That's why you wanted to do it. I'm asking you now. The reason I'm asking you, then maybe you'll understand it better, is that many of us want to do things. Was gonna, could, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
And there are things that stop us. And it's so easy to find a reason not to get up, to do this, to do that, right? But actually, what would you now, having done it, having helped, having achieved, you know, what was your life's dream, what would you say to yourself, that person who was reluctant to go because you didn't want to tell somebody else's story?
I would say, go for it. Go for it immediately. I lost 15 years of being able to have a voice in such an important and privileged position. When I sit on the bench, I'm able to fairly and respectfully hear cases about real people's lives with very serious, sometimes, consequences. I don't have regrets about my life, but I wish I'd been brave enough to apply then, because the journey of application was still hard. It took a year for the whole process to happen. And I've been to the Old Bailey, supporting individuals in my family that have been at cases, and you know the Old Bailey is not for little crimes.
It's daunting. I've been there.
Very much so. So to be sworn in the Old Bailey was life-changing, and it was very tearful for me. So I think if I was writing a letter to my younger self, I'd say try it, because at least to have tried it and fail means that I did what I was destined to try and do.
And
so
you are.
I'm finally there.
And you are. And no, and you are. And I mean, you know, all epic journeys begin with a single step. Just to tell you about this, yesterday, day before yesterday, I hosted an event where the lady was on with us a few months ago, Leela. Leela is head honcho at Urban Synergy. Now, I'm a trustee there, and the chair of trustees is a man I'd love to get on here. I begged him to come on my show. His name is Courtney Griffith, QC. Now, Courtney told me yesterday. Now, if you don't know who he is, he was one of the people that defended the Brighton bomber. He was in the second inquest in the New Cross fire. He's just in the legal profession as a person of color. He's just like the top of person. Just take that one from me. And he said to me, I think there are 18 courts at the Old Bailey, and he said every single day, Eddie, 15 of those 18 courts are caught up with young men, black and white, who are on trial for murder. So if anybody's in any confusion as to why we're doing what we're doing and making interventions, I lay it down before you. Let me ask you one really important question, because here's the one. I know people who've gone out with police to observe. I know people who have volunteered, and you would have heard me with Angela, who I love very much. But I have to ask the question, so I think that people at home are asking, what do you as a black woman bring to the party when you sit there as a magistrate?
I bring a honesty and a respect that I can only talk about myself. So those sitting beside me, all respect to them and their experiences. But growing up, I was in a gang. I have seen a lot in my time. I'm 49, and I have had an opportunity to make right choices when many of my friends made wrong ones. And I think that, and I wanted to give you some statistics about the fact that the BAME community need to get more involved if they can, because we are underrepresented. We have a lot of women magistrates, but we don't have enough men. We certainly don't have enough black men. We need younger people to get involved in this. A lot of people think that the magistrates is only for the old. We typically think that old white people are magistrates because when we see the TV or we actually go to a court, that's what we see.
That's exactly right.
But the thing is, when I sit there and I see a little black boy on a video link from a Pentonville prison, and he looks at me and he kind of does a double take, I know that he's thinking, okay, maybe I'll get a fair trial. And maybe that's their experience because I'm a fellow black person. Not that I'm going to hear the case any differently because they're black, but I'm certainly a person who has experienced things. And as a social worker, I also have life experience of working with some precious young people that have been through things. So I think that's what I bring to the table.
Yeah. I mean, but to the grace of God go away, isn't it? It's that, isn't it? Just a little something could have gone wrong in them days there, and you would have been there if they caught you with the diamond white and the Thunderbird. You might have been there as well, Lisa. Let's bring Lois back on. Lois, it's been a good one today, isn't it, Lois?
Absolutely, it's been fire, and these guys are lighting up the chats and the comment box for all the guests.
Before you get to asking specific questions, I know that the Enfield have been backing us, right? And I know that Enfield are doing stuff. And I've got to say, as a parent now, I've fallen in love with our library because they do sewing, they do language, they do karate, they got church services. They do things in the library that I don't remember them doing in the library. Just quickly before we get to some questions for Lisa, tell us what's happening with Enfield Library, Lois. What are they doing?
There's a massive project going on at the moment, and as you quite rightly alluded to, that there's so much. It's more than what we would know the library for when we were growing up. And they do sewing and various different activities. So Enfield Library is doing a massive push just to get people through the doors, and it's not libraries as we know it. So please do make every effort to go and check them out on their website, Enfield Libraries, or even Enfield Council. You'll be able to get all the information there.
And Lisa, you got some questions coming. How did it feel, Lisa, by the way? As me and you, me and you dancing there, it's different, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's not nice. Okay,
I've got to say, yes, I've got to say there's a theme today, isn't it? Two themes I've got, which are A, working together and supporting each other, because actually that's probably what we haven't done very well. And the other one is that, actually, if we do look out for each other, we do care each other, we can get somewhere, give hope and inspiration. But I imagine there are various questions about the mechanics of becoming a magistrate, Lois.
Yes, there is. There's a few here. I'll start with this one from Donald. It says, "Question for Your Honour." I love it. What have been your interactions and learnings from the police as a magistrate?
Very good. Very good question.
Oh, excellent question. My interactions have been very, very nice, very professional. We are called Your Worship in court. I have experienced police giving evidence, and in relation to my learnings, I see the hard job that police do, and especially during COVID, if I'm honest, there were quite a few offences where people were spitting at the police, which to me was disgusting and is an offence. So in relation to learnings, it can be a hard job. It can be a thankless job, because I have friends who are Black police officers, Black detectives. I know right now the police are getting a really hard time in the media, but there are amazing people in every profession. Maybe that's a political, maybe that's like a politician's answer, but I'm
Ever been mistaken for a criminal?
Me.
I
take
that as a no. Sorry, Lois, let's go.
That's absolutely fine. A lot of the comments have been coming on is just how inspirational you are, Lisa, in just taking this bold step. And it would be great if you could just briefly give the audience a bit of an understanding of is this a path that they too can walk? And if so, how can they get there?
Oh, absolutely. You can go, and I know that I've given Walk This Way some information in advance. So in relation to getting on the website, it's gov.uk/become magistrate. So as simple as that. You can even Google how to become a magistrate, which is, I didn't have to do that because the lovely Operation Black Vote helped me and guided me and told me exactly what to do. It's an online form, an online process. You'll fill out the application form. They will seek references before you actually are even interviewed. So you have to give 3 references. And if you have a criminal record, it may bar you from sitting, because clearly you wouldn't want to be called to do a case where a victim of a crime you committed was actually in the dock. So it's a very, very simple process, just like applying for a job. And they do want more people to come forward. I'll just give you some stats. We have 1% of magistrates last year were under 30, and this was a Ministry of Justice report in September 2020 on diversity. So we had 1% that was under 30, 12% out of 100 were reported as being from the BAME community, 12.5% aged between 30 and 39, and 58% were female. So we do need more men. You don't need legal or formal qualifications to be a magistrate at all. You just need to apply. What's the worst that could happen?
Lois, thank you very much. I've got one more question before we bring Laverne on, which is, nearly every single time I've ever heard of any person of colour being invited to serve on a jury, I know that you're a magistrate, so I appreciate the difference. They seem to be doing everything they possibly can to get out of it. So what I've heard from you and Angela would suggest that you absolutely need to try to be part of that process. What would you say?
Without a shadow of a doubt. As Dr. Angela said, if you're not at the table, you can't make a decision. for me, it's imperative with everything that's going on in society. Okay. I'll come from my day job. I'll get ready at night. I'll go to court in the morning, whatever it takes for you to be part of the solution. So we're trying to inspire you here. But yeah, for me, all day long, I had to do this. I was scared. I'm not going to lie to you. But when I got sworn in, after I finished barling and I phoned my dad and I said, Daddy, I've done it. Then I got the opportunity to come in court. So now people say to me, oh my God, you're a magistrate. And I said, you can be too. So I hope this will inspire people. And I have been, just to add to what Dr. Angela said, I have been on the police advisory committee in Lambeth. So I did that for a year and that was equally amazing. So there's lots of opportunities.
Well done. Lois, God bless you. Any more of the housekeeping you want to tell everybody about?
No, not at all. So I think that is it from Lisa. She's getting so much well wishes, and all the questions that were received we've posed to you already.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's Lois there, reading your comments. Please see this as an opportunity to continue to talk. We've talked on some real hard life stuff, some reality, because what we are championing as people who have got involved in the system, you might think makes them a sellout. Now, the only way we can break that down is to actually have the conversation. And I don't think anybody who's been on the show today is scared of having that conversation. Talking of conversation, let's get Laverne on. Laverne Antrobus is a child and behavioral psychologist. I wanted to get you on much earlier, Laverne, because we hang on your every word. Laverne sits, watches everybody's body movements, their behavior, and then helps us around it up. Obviously, look, let's talk about the children aspect of this in a little while. But we have had a few common themes, haven't we?
I think we really have. I think the thread that, for me, I've picked up is that, you know, everybody who's spoken tonight is talking about making the invisible visible. And I think that is so important. You know, you absolutely have to be meeting with people, mentoring them, helping them to see what possibly can't be seen by others in order that they can believe it. So I've really felt that thread throughout. I think Courtney talked about working with men, working with fathers. You know, there's a way in which we see what we want to see, but by having the opportunity to really talk to each other, you help somebody notice something about themselves. And that vulnerability that Courtney was talking about, I really did feel resonated and made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but you see, that vulnerability is something that people who have reached the next stage of evolution, like Courtney, can talk about. My knuckles are still hanging on the floor as I walk along, and it seems to me that the first step to that is talking. As a behavioral psychologist, how much of that do you encourage, and how much of a resistance is there to talking? And I mean real talk, not foolishness.
I think it's interesting you say resistance. I think it's about opportunity. I think there are many encounters that people have where they feel written off before they've even started. They don't even feel seen. So I think in the mental health clinic that I work in, when we have fathers who come, they don't expect to be asked anything. You know, they'll leave that to the wife, the partner, because that's what's happened. And when you shift your gaze and you say, so what do you think? That's the transformative moment. And not only for that father, but for their child. The amount of children that will sit there and say, I didn't know you thought that about me. I didn't know that that's what you were thinking. So those are the moments. So I think there's a way in which, you know, if we're not having conversations, if we're not curious, people are going to be left in the same position.
Right. So, but I'm a talker, right? That's how I earn my living. And I dare say Lisa's a talker. We know that the people who've been on here are talkers. Not everybody is a talker. Not everybody knows it's okay. And there's so many of, particularly men, but holding so much inside. How do you begin? What's the first step to kind of just talking and knowing it's all right to talk?
I think it's really starting with that person. I mean, I've had many silences in the clinic setting, and I think just being able to absorb that and know that it takes people a bit of time to gather themselves, that they actually have never been asked what they're thinking or what their thoughts are. And I can't remember what I was listening to, but I heard the other day, somebody's done some research about men deciding there are certain places where they can be men, where they can be emotional and show that part of themselves. The football match, down the pub, with their friends, as if it's something that can only appear in a certain time and place and then gets cut off.
Yeah. Did they not teach you that in university? Yeah.
I've seen a whole different side to the men and fathers that I see in the clinic setting, I have to say.
Okay, so let me ask you also, and as I say, I am minded to tell you that I spent a lot of time talking to Professor Kevin Fenton about mental health. He's head of Public Health England, as you probably know, regional head of London. We know mental health awareness is coming on Sunday. We know people will have been impacted by COVID, and we know particularly children will have not had exams, they won't have done the socializing, they won't have been to university. Are you seeing different challenges present? And if so, what would you advise us as parents talking to our children to do more of?
I think I've seen a range of challenges. I think that what I've really learned is to not ignore, but to try and help children feel that the responses and reactions they're having are the ones we'd expect them to have. I think the biggest message has been not to oversaturate them with the media headlines, lost generation. I mean, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I think the key message that I've had from young people and that I've tried to give is about keeping hope alive. And I think somebody said it a bit earlier on the panel, how can you be inspirational if you don't try and help people see the hope within them? And I think that the last thing I'd say about the pandemic and all of the losses is realizing that actually it takes some of us much longer to do the things that the person next to us is doing. And that's for a very good reason, because we're not ready. Yeah, we're not ready. Some people aren't ready to go to university at 18. They might go at 25. They might go at 40. Don't beat yourself up about not being in the same race as somebody else, because it's your race that you're running.
Laverne, could I ask you a question? When I knew that you were coming on, I felt like last time we had the pleasure of interviewing you, we didn't have enough time. So one of the questions that I'd really been thinking about, as I work with young people in a social work capacity, I sometimes think about the fear factor, and you touched on it when you spoke about the media. There's a lot of parents that have been speaking to me and saying that the media, not only in relation to the pandemic, but some of the things that are going on in our schools, and a lot of the clients that you'll come into contact with, our young people are fearful. There's a lot of self-harm, child mental health in this pandemic is rife. What can we do in our homes with our young people? What little tips could you give us?
Well, I definitely think that Eddie's right. Talking is so powerful. I think making space for those conversations is really important. I think, demonstrating something about your own mental health as a parent is really important. The trials and tribulations, not everything, but, just saying, it wasn't my best day today, but, I punched through it. I think if children can see their parents talking about the reality of how you develop resilience, it's really important. Nobody's born with resilience.
Really, instead of pretending that you're living the perfect life, Laverne.
Absolutely.
I tell you, it's incredible. I mean, if we could give birth to children who just had resilience in abundance, wouldn't that be great? But we've all had to go through huge adversity sometimes in order to be able to know we can bounce back from things. The more you generate those sorts of conversations in your households, the more children can think, okay, so it's okay to not get things right. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have the belief that I'll be able to do better next time. But they'll only learn it if they see us living it and talking about it.
And I've got one more question, if you don't mind. Just in relation to people that want to do something, they want to make a change. We have loads of listeners tonight that are saying really complimentary things to us all. But why do you think it is that some people sit on the fence? Is it fair?
I think there's a very real fear factor of whether or not I'm good enough, I'm right for this. And I think that's why I think the people who've spoken tonight have been so incredibly important at reminding people to really think about our own capacities. What's in us that we think we might be able to contribute to a person in the street. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I think there are ways in which we can connect with each other eat on the tube, walking down the road, notice each other. I don't think we remember or realise how powerful that is to be acknowledged and to feel part of society in that way. The bus driver who says good morning to you, the person at the bus stop who says, how are you doing? Those little bits of conversation are the things that young children talk about. You know, the child that comes in and says, the caretaker always says hello to me in the morning. Yeah, that raises that child's day and that their game, makes them feel like they belong somewhere, that they're noticed, that they're worth something. So I think it's the little things that perhaps we take for granted that are the nuggets that help people feel better about themselves.
Absolutely. Listen, Laverne, you're one of those people, aren't you? We're going to have you on, and however long we have you on is never going to be enough. I take it from you. Encourage everybody to keep talking. Hopefully, through today, we've inspired some conversation. We appreciate you, Laverne. Thank you so much for talking to us. Also to Sonia Miggy, to Dr. Angela Herbert, and to you, Lisa.
My pleasure.
So,
absolute pleasure.
Thanks to all the people behind the scenes, Lois and Courtney, Sarah over there, and to Arnold and Hugh also helping us to stay afloat. Now, look, this is the beginning, right? This is supposed to be a catalyst for conversation, so I hope it does. And if there are conversations that you'd like to continue, please follow Father to Father. You can watch this again. It will be up on the platform on YouTube. As I say, Nexus have really worked for us. Try to get in touch with Father to Father. Get on one of those courses. Find a way to have a chat inside your house. Have Sunday dinner together. Do something. We encourage conversation. A special thank you to Enfield Council. Lisa, what have I missed? Because you're the one who keeps it all afloat.
Okay, well, what I'd just like to remind everyone is I'm happy to announce that the next date, I saw someone in the chat, Eddie, say it's really unfortunate that this is every 3 months. Seems like people would like this to actually be more frequent. But the next date of the next Walk This Way is Thursday, the 2nd of December at 8 p.m. So just before Christmas. And that will be hosted by our lovely selves. We'll be talking about changing the home and the way that we behave and how that influences our young. And we'll also be looking at the influence of faith in our lives and how we can make a change, within our faith.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good because the amount of times I've heard my children say something and thought to myself, where they get it from, and then realize it's me. It's me.
Blame
It's
the
my
parents.
fault. So I'll be fascinated by that. Thank you to everybody who's watched, who supported, who's got involved. Please follow it up if you'd like to be a magistrate, if you'd like to get involved in terms of being advisor in the police, or writing a message to yourself. I found that fascinating. Mine would just have one word: don't. That's all mine would say. But look, thank you so much, everybody. Have a pleasant evening, whatever you're doing. Please stay safe. And with God's blessing, we'll see you again 2nd of December. Thank you.
Bye-bye.